if we go back to our scripture text, the Bible tells us in verse 1 that when the number of disciples was multiplying, there arose a complaint against the Hebrews by the Hellenists or the Grecians or the Grecian Jews, because their widows were neglected in the daily distribution. So the first challenge of numerical growth is that complaints and murmurings will arise. Complaints and murmurings will arise as a result of pressure on the available resources that's present in the body. For example, in some churches, especially when churches are starting afresh, they like to entertain a lot. So do you have maybe tea or coffee, depending on which part of the country you are, part of the world you are in. In some other places, like in Africa here, it's usually soft drinks and snacks or sandwiches, or in some cases they even have packed food, depending on the number. Once the numbers are few, they can afford that. But as more and more people see that these things are happening there, you discover that they have come not because of the word per se, but because of the entertainment afterwards. And so what happens? You have increased numbers, and you now have pressure on the on the resources that are available for this number of people to be engaged in. Let me read a portion of scripture in Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 through to verse 10. I just read that briefly. Now, the mixed multitude who were among them yielded to intense craving. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, "Who will give us meat to eat?" Now, let me explain the mixed multitude here. When Israel left Egypt, they did not leave Egypt all alone. There were some Egyptians and some foreigners in Egypt who followed them. There were people born of mixed race or mixed blood. Some Jews had children by Egyptians and vice versa, and those ones came. Some Jews had children by other foreigners in Egypt, and those ones also came. So you had this mixed multitude who did not go through the problem of servitude, but now they began to complain about the food they were missing out. In verse 5, they said, "We remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt." This could not have been the Jews, because they were slaves. They didn't have access to those things. But there were foreigners in their midst who had access to those things. And they discovered them when they saw the power of God. So these are the mixed multitude that the Bible is talking about. When you have the kind of growth that we're talking about here, the numerical growth, you are going to have mixed multitude. We are going to see that later. You're definitely going to have mixed multitude. And they will come up with all kinds of cravings and then complaints and murmuring. And as they are complaining and their cravings are there, they impact on those who actually came as Christ. Because those people who came for Christ also now begin to reason. Is Christianity all about suffering? Is there nothing to enjoy in this Christianity? How come we cannot live like the people of the world in this Christianity? And so you now have the problem of complaints. So we said, we remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Even reading it alone, your mouth can begin to salivate over these things. That come to think of it, where is the good life that they promised us? But now our whole being is dried up. There's nothing at all except this manna before our eyes. And then the Bible goes on to describe the manna and other things. And the Bible tells us in verse 10 that Moses was grieved. It says, "Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused. Moses also was displeased." These are the things that can happen when you have such growth, such numerical growth like that. You will have complaints and murmurings because there are pressures on available resources. Also, some people have come in from their own backgrounds and they want to continue to live the way they lived before coming in to the church. And so you have complaints arising in the case we're looking at in Acts chapter 6, is the issue of the Grecian Jews complaining that the Hebraic Jews had taken all the resources and they did not even have any for themselves. So the first thing that we will note when there is such numerical growth, one of the challenges that we have to deal with is the challenge of complaints and murmuring from the group.